Hey, what's happening, Gothamites? I'm K-Wing, and this is hashtag Arkham Wednesdays, the show where we learn stuff while punching crime in the face. Today's lore, while donning the new 52 suit, is on Gotham. No, not this Gotham. Never this Gotham. Ever. No, this Gotham. The superhero, kind of. So let's dive into the backstory of I Am Gotham, a 5-part miniseries by Tom King. So, since DC Rebirth has released, a lot of good stuff has been happening to the Bat family. Well, most of them, more or less. Superstar writer, again Mr. King, who turned Nightwing into Secret Agent Matt Grayson, is now writing the Bat books, and he's doing a pretty good job. Kicking things off with the I Am Gotham series, which is basically a miniseries that leads into Night of the Monster Men and continues in I Am Suicide. But all you need to know is some really crazy metahumans have now come to Gotham, and they're super powerful. Now, Bats, as you know, is no stranger to dealing with metas, supernatural stuff, aliens, etc. But for whatever reason, those freaks tend to avoid Gotham like the plague. Which makes sense if you think about it. I mean, the city is a bit messed up, and I'm not just talking about the housing market either. There's lots of crazies and whack jobs roaming the streets, and something's happening every Monday and Thursday. Pretty much every day is chaos in Gotham. So while out on patrol, Batman stops by the GCPD and talks with Jim about Cobra goons stealing some surface-to-air missiles. And Batman says he'll track the scum down or something gruff like that. I need to save my voice. When all of a sudden, a passenger flight coming into Gotham to land gets blasted out of the sky with the stolen missiles. Before Jim can even tell Batman what to do, he's gone. Calling his butler on his bat phone, Alfred tells him the plane is going to land somewhere in Gotham, and then Batman gets the coordinates from Duke and issues some orders as well. If you don't know who Duke is, he is a costumed crime fighter, a new partner of Batman called Lark. He also appeared in the I Am Robin, or We Are Robin series a few years ago. So anyway, that's who Duke is. While racing in the Batmobile avoiding civilian rush, thanks to Mr. Lark, we learned that unfortunately the Justice League is busy tonight. All the heavy hitters like Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter are playing bridge. Or they're off-world somewhere. I'd like to think that it's card night in the Hall of Justice. But anyway, Batman's like, whatever, this is my city, I'll handle this on my own. Because I'm Batman. So he checks in with Duke about how high up the plane is, and then he uses some gadget in his Batmobile to rocket eject out of it and lands on top of the flight. Not gonna lie, that was a pretty cool panel to see. Also, it's amazing how much propulsion that little ejector seat had. It went all the way up to a Boeing 77. Inside the plane, people are freaking out like crazy because, well, you know, the plane is gonna crash, okay? One guy's like, any other city we'd be fine, man. I mean, Superman, Green Lantern, somebody would catch us. Even Wonder Woman, who in Gotham is gonna catch us? Just then, Batman lands on the plane in real time on the wing, and a kid shouts, Batman will save us! The passengers look at each other and then just start busting out laughing. For a second, they feel better, and then they realize that they're going to die. What these turkeys don't realize, though, is Batman can save the jet because, well, you know, he's Batman. Also, he brought mini rockets to attach to the plane. Just don't ask how. I mean, tiny bat compartments? I don't know. He has little rockets, and he attaches them to the plane, and then he checks in with Alfred. Sir, you've created a new bat plane. Alfred, increase the thrust. We need to clear Wayne Tower. In the background, a figure is lurking near the bodies of the terrorists that shot down the plane, and watches Batman guiding the plane toward Gotham Bay. Back on the plane, something happens with Z-Rockets, and Alfred tells Bruce in a sad voice, Sir, in order for this to work, I'm afraid you'll have to steer the plane manually, meaning you probably won't make it. Batman is like, I know, Alfred. It was great working with you. Bruce then issues his will, all calm-like, while riding, like, on a plane like a cowboy. Then before the plane actually hits Gotham Bay, which would crush every bone in Batman's body because he doesn't have, like, a frame of steel, he's like, Alfred, I love you. You were like my other dad. Just then, the plane is lifted off the ground like a Superman caught it. Batman looks kind of surprised for a minute and says, Clark? Kara, is that you? I thought you guys were, it was bridge night or something. Then a booming, heroic voice says,
My name is Gotham. This is Gotham Girl, Batman. We're here to protect this city.
When I was reading this, it kind of sounded like Dudley Do-Right to me, so, it just works for Hank, I guess. So the next night, the new costume supers are fighting Solomon Grundy, and we hear the whole spiel from him. Born on a Monday, blah, 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 until Batman appears via smoke pellet and judo flips Grundy, saying, This is the end of Solomon Grundy. And he puts his foot on the zombie's neck like, Bleh. Then he says, Remember how much pain you're in now. You attack more people, I'll hurt you more. The Bat of Gotham then lectures the young superheroes on how their fighting style is very sloppy and they almost wiped out the resident homeless guy at the park. A little annoyed by Batman's interference, Gotham then follows the Dark Knight and says, I'm doing pretty good, I'll have you know. And Batman says, You're doing well, but I need you to do better. So back in the Batcave, Bruce talks about dying someday because, well, he just has so many depressing things to talk about. He also mentions how when he goes, then Dick will become Batman, and then he someday will die. And Alfred is like, oh, I'm so glad I came downstairs to hear this topic. Let's talk about something less depressing. Then Bruce grits his teeth in jealousy, talking about the new kids on the block that essentially have Superman's powers. And Alfred is like, someone is the jelly, sir. Bruce is like, I'm for serious, Alfred. Alfred is like, gee, Gotham City descends into more chaos. That's a shocker. I can't be the really cool Michael Caine. I wish I could, but I will never sound like him, so just deal with it, okay, people? So he then reminds Bruce of a party going on upstairs that requires the Wayne's attendance. And Batman is like, well, yeah, I'm not staying long. Alfred replies with, now there's a shocker. Elsewhere at the Gotham PD, Gordon is telling his secretary that he's going to be staying late, so if she could call his daughter Barbara and just say, hey, I'm going to be running an hour, and then the secretary's like, so you really mean 2 to 3? And Gordon's like, yep, and get me a coffee. They also found the terrorist responsible, and they're kind of dead, so they have no leads to go on, so that's why Gordon has to pull overtime. Just then, some creepy old guy comes into Gordo's office, and then after a pleasant chat about the Monster Men coming, kills himself in front of the stunned commissioner. Back at the party, Bruce is dancing with a very hot brunette, and then drops her like a stone once he sees the bat signal. And she's like, excuse me, do you have any idea who I am? And Bruce is just running off calling for Alfred, and she's like, excuse me? And, of course, they head to the grandfather clock, and Duke is there, because, he's the new sidekick, so it makes sense that he has to go to all the soirees. I mean, Grayson had to do it. Jason, well, actually, I don't know if Jason ever did it, but Drake did, and Drake even became the face of the company in the pre-52 for a while, so he had to do all the Wayne parties, which are pretty boring, actually. They don't, play video games or read comics or, even maybe Parcheesi. They just stand around and talk politics. Fun. So anyway, on the way to the grandfather clock, Duke is like, so, can we trust these new superpowered metas? Maybe they can actually help us. And Bruce is like, I don't trust anybody. And Alfred's like, I bought him a sword once for his birthday when he was 11. I thought it was a bit strange, but he seemed to really like it. But then he tried to attack me with it. So, yes, Master Bruce does not like anybody. And Duke is just like, dang. And it's like, yes, Duke, he is the dang. So minutes later after changing, scratch that, probably 20 minutes later plus traffic, Batman arrives at the GCPD and brought the Super Kids with him. He must have called them on the way or found them flying around Gotham and was like, hey kids, come with me. It's take your kids to work day. Or something like that. So Gordon then briefs the new junior Bat people on the case at hand and asks the Wonder Twins if they know what's going on. And they're like, no, we don't really know anything. Hi, Commissioner Gordon. I've always been a fan. And then Gordon's just like, okay. So he talks to Batman. He's like, have you heard anything about these monster men? And Batman's like, no. Gordon asks the Wonder Twins the same question. And they reply with, no, sir, but we are here to protect the city alongside Wait, where did he go? The kids start panicking like crazy, and Gordon just smirks a little bit while he lights up his cigar. And Gotham's like, or Gotham Girl is, I believe it's Gotham Girl, she says, he's gone! Where'd he go? But how? And Jim is like, yeah, he kind of does that. Welcome to the team, kids. They can't believe what they just witnessed, so they start using like their supervision and hearing, and they can't find Batman. And Gotham retorts,
It's impossible!
Gordon replies with, "It's Batman. Night, kids." Fast forward to Arkham Asylum, which is near the end of the second issue, I believe. We see that Hugo Strange is up to something odd with a therapy patient. Haha, you thought I was going to say something strange, didn't you? Fooled you. Alright, so believe it or not, we are now on to the origin of Gotham and Gotham Girl. So stop me if you've heard this before. You're out for a nice stroll with the fam, and you decide to take a shortcut through a dark alleyway because it would just be easier to... It's a shortcut. A greasy man then pulls a gun out on you, and, well, you know the rest. But this time, Batman leaps from the shadows and says, "No!" Then beats the mugger up. He then tells the little boy, "It's okay, don't be afraid. Everyone gets scared, but they also get the opportunity to fight that fear and become brave." Matches Malone in the now, because that was a past narrative. So anyway, the family... The Clover family is retelling the story of how their son was saved by Batman, and Batman has already put two and two together and knows that this boy grew up hero-worshipping him and is now a superhero somehow. And, you know, he had the same type of traumatic experience that caused Bruce to become Batman, minus not losing his parents. So anyway, Matches Malone is listening intently to the story of the Gotham children, Gotham and Gotham Girl, and, you know... it gets a little boring, and then he's kind of like, well, you know, I was just here to check to see if you guys did some type of fraud or something, but it seems like your story totally, you know, checks out. If this was pre-52 Batman, though, he would be like, this kid's obsession with me is nowhere near as bad as pre-52 Tim Drake. Because that dude was able to discover Robin's identity from watching a flip because he attended the Grayson Circus. And he was able to figure out who I was, and then he stalked me, and he broke into my house. I mean, Jason just boosted the tires off the Batmobile. Tim Drake got into Wayne Manor. He stalked Grayson. I mean, that kid had some serious obsessive-compulsive issues. But this kid, you know, he just has a couple posters, and, you know, he volunteered at some soup kitchens, which Batman would never do. And, you know, he read some books to old people, traveled the world, which Batman did, learned some kung fu. Okay, this is getting a little too clingy. Studied criminology and forensic sciences, and basically used Wikipedia for everything else. Also, the sister ended up traveling with the brother because he was super obsessed with Batman. She wanted to be just like her big brother, so she also followed in his footsteps, which is cute and kind of creepy. So the parents continued to mention how the kids went overseas and they stopped hearing from them a while. And this is where the money that, you know, Matches is supposedly checking on, but he's really not. And they kind of fess to, well, we had to wire the kids a bunch of money, and it was a large sum of money, and we didn't do anything wrong, we pay our taxes, you know, we donate to the police, we're good people. And Matches is like, thanks for your time, I don't see any fraud or anything like that, so you guys are good. And he also said, you know what? You kind of remind me of a nice couple I knew when I was younger. Sadly, they died young, but they also were good parents. He smiles and then leaves. So while this whole little investigation is going on with Matches, somewhere in the city, Gotham and Gotham Girl are racing to the site of another massive explosion, this time on Gotham Bridge. Well, one of the Gotham bridges, there's a lot of them. So Alfred tells Bruce, the culprit was a suicide bomber, Mr. Bruce. She warned the monster men are coming and blew herself up, and Bruce's car becomes a transformer, and out comes Batman, complete with Batcycle, which could totally be a toyetic thing. You know, DC Comics might be trying to sell you toys or something, which, I mean, that would be a cool toy. It's a convertible that turns into a Batcycle. So anyway, back at the bridge, or rather under it, Hank, who is Gotham, is doing his best to keep the highway from falling into the river or bay or whatever you want to call it, while his sister Claire rescues as many people as she can off the bridge. Then Batman arrives and uses the Batplane and more tiny rockets to lift the entire bridge, saving everyone, Bat-style. Not far, a sinister figure is lurking, staring at Batman, with shades that look a lot like Hugo Strange, uttering, I'm not Gotham, I'm better than Gotham. Now, if you don't know who Hugo Strange is, he actually has a huge obsession with Batman. In fact, in the 70s and 80s, there were a couple arcs where he dressed up as Batman to confront him and wanted to become Batman and thought he was better than Batman. In the Arkham games, coming into Hugo created Arkham City and was trying to, make everything better, but at the same time do things different than Batman. So he's always had this dynamic where he tries to do the same thing Batman does, he just twists his way of doing it, and also he's a mad scientist who's crazy. So, not that Batman's not crazy, I mean, a grown man jumping off rooftops clearly has issues, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Batman, back at the bridge, he's saving everybody, whatever. He issues orders to the twins saying, I'm gonna go after the bomber, you guys stay here, and just help out. And they're like, okay. Hank then starts to stutter and act like a kid in front of his idol. Batman smiles, jumps off the bridge, and says, I'm glad you could use your fear. And Hank is like, oh my gosh, he remembers me! Oh, fanboy squeal! Then kaboom! Somewhere in Gotham, another bomb goes off in the city. The Wonder Twins have some banter en route, which I thought was kind of funny. So, I mean, I like these characters. And when you're reading this, you want to like these characters because they're new and they're fresh and they're breathing new life into the mythos while still transitioning well into the world and not overpowering things. I mean, the writer is a genius. Anyway, we're arriving at the scene of the bomb explosion. I forget what they call that, the aftermath or whatever. The kids bump into Hugo Strange and Psycho Pirate, a villain we haven't seen for a very long time. A villain with the ability to basically mess with people's minds, kind of like the Mad Hatter, but more of like a psychotic way, and like really do things to your mind that's not fun. So hours later, Batman investigates the carnage of what happened, which they don't really show you. They kind of fill in the gaps as the story goes. Alfred, I'm looking at 27 dead, and the culprit had superpowers. So over in the corner in a fetal position, Gotham Girl repeats over and over again, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, like out of like a crazy Jason movie or something, or Freddy Krueger or something. Next to her on the wall, dripping with blood, is a message that says, I am Gotham. And you're just like, whoa, something crazy just happened. Across town, another bomber stands, poised and ready to paint the town red with more bombs. Hank then arrives and tries to tell the bomber,
Everyone gets scared. You can fight that fear, and everyone gets a chance to be brave.
And the bomber says, hey, thank you so much. You know what? I feel a lot better, and I can do this now. Boom! Blows himself up. Hank then screams like Vader, no! Back at the Batcave, Claire wakes up, though still messed up after meeting Psycho Pirate, because, yeah, that guy's terrible at first impression. Duke tries to calm her down and notes how he's probably in love with first sight, because for a fictional character, Gotham Girl's got it going on. She's a blonde, she's in her 20s. What's not to love? Though, he's also worried that the Supergirl reference could rip off his head too, which she is pretty super, so she could do that if she wants to. Batman then calls and orders Duke to get him intel on Hank because he thinks Hank did some naughty things. Duke says, yeah, I'm on it. He's at some bridge, B-Man. Go over there. I'm busy making googly eyes. Gotham is then seen carrying parts of the bridge that's been blown up, and he's saying this over and over again. I can fix this. I can fix this. So it's kind of like Fix-It Felix, but not as cute or small. So the writer's trying to let you know, okay, Hank has gone bye-bye. So, just think Mr. Fix-It. I can fix this. I can fix this. I can fix this. And Batman is like, no, you can't. You're not an engineer. You're not the mayor. You're not city council. You're some kid with superpowers. So while being dissed by his, hero, Hank is not all that happy and throws a steel beam at Batman's head, which destroys another Batmobile. Luckily, Bruce is, of course, a billionaire, so that's really not gonna dent his wallet at all. Now, while the Dark Knight doesn't have superpowers, he does have a will of steel and a wit to match, and he's able to talk down most of his opponents and make them feel dumb. So he talks to Hank while giving him a bat bruising, saying how, he knew what Hank could do, except tonight, 27 men are dead. Gotham snaps out of his trance for a second, cries like a little girl, and then flies off very sad. Duke then calls Batman on what's left of the Batmobile and says, "I've got some important data for you, boss. I'll send it to the car." Bats be like, "No, Mr. Thomas, don't send it to the car." The Batmobile then explodes from the damage. I don't really know how this really works into the story. I've had to reread this a couple times, but supposedly Duke tells Batman that 24 is the number that they're looking for, the group responsible for creating the Wonder Twins, probably. And then Batman mutters, "Task Force X, I need to go see Waller." So after giving her watchdog the night off, which is that General Eiling guy or whatever, Waller tells Batman everything, because you don't want to mess with Batman when he's grumpy. How she brought Hugo Strange and Psycho Pirate into the Suicide Squad, and they were working for her. Then things got kind of out of control. Psycho Pirate got loose. Hugo Strange did some bad things. And we're all just like, "Thanks, Amanda. Thanks for that." She then, thanks Batman for the colorful new friends in the city and says that 28 of her people are basically dead. And Batman says, "I thought it was 27. Sometime later, we come face to face with Gotham's next victim, a member of Waller's team who just killed Hank and Claire's mom and dad for revenge on what Hank did to the 27 men that Batman found where Claire was. Unfortunately, this was Hank's last restraint, and losing his parents was the final nail in Gotham's coffin. He snaps his parents' killer like a toothpick, and Batman is powerless. Batman and then Hank are now mortal enemies because even though, Gotham killed 28 people tonight, the fact his young protege buddy here took revenge for the guy who killed his parents means Hank crossed the line. That's Affleck logic right there. Because he was totally okay with the 28 people who were killed, but because mommy and daddy of the superhero were killed, that goes against the superhero code book. You can never take revenge on the person who killed your parents, even though you yourself just killed 28 people. You know what? I'm just... bad logic. So, of course, like the TV show of the same name, Gotham becomes bad. Batman then tries to talk down Hank, and then when that doesn't work, he fights him. But he's easily bested. It's like watching a fly versus a fly swatter. Before Hank leaves as the main villain now, he says,
"I may not be able to save Gotham, Batman, but I can kill it before it hurts anyone else! Ah!"
So think Dudley Do-Right, but really angry now. So the Boy Scout is now the Killer Scout. Or Assassin Scout. Murder Scout, there you go. So Bruce looks up in horror like, "I've created another Jason Todd, but this one has superpowers. God help us all." So seconds later, at the heart of the city, because, Hank is really fast, a blood-crazed Gotham lands right in the commercial district. He tells the people to scatter and run for their lives.
"Run, people! I am going to murder you all!"
You know what? I really wouldn't be intimidated by that voice, though. So that's the voice that I hear when I read Gotham. So Alfred then, calls Batman and learns that Bruce is going to take some time to, get to where Gotham is because, one, he doesn't have superpowers, and probably some of his ribs are broken because he was being tossed around like a rag doll, So Batman tells Alfred, "I need you to stall him and do whatever you can," and Alfred says, "Very well, sir." Then he races towards the villain, and Alfred becomes Batman. I kid you not. Tom King made Alfred dress up as the Dark Knight. Something we haven't really seen since the Bronze Age comics. And, of course, the Adam West show, where sometimes Alfred did dress up as Batman and threw his voice. So it's kind of cool. Alfred then thanks the Waynes and has, this little monologue in the car as he's racing toward where the bad guy is, and then rams into Hank with the Batmobile. And unlike Superman, this guy isn't totally impervious, so he gets flung halfway across the road by Alfred. And then, he's really ticked off. He gets up, he's like,
"Who did that?"
And Alfred stands there and "I'm Gotham's Dark Knight." And Hank is just like, "No, you're just some British guy in a mask." And Alfred's like, "What? No, I'm Batman." And, Hank is just like, "All right, well, whoever you are, you're a man wearing a mask, and I'm taking you down." And then Batman arrives, and he's like, "Back kick!" And he kicks Gotham in the face. So, that, and of course another Batmobile dies because Batman throws the crazed superhero into the Batmobile and then detonates it. I love Duke's reaction while he's watching this from the Batcave. He's like, one of these days, he's gonna run out of Batmobiles. And it's just like, that's my thoughts exactly, Duke. So back at the battle, Batman pleads with Hank to stop while, punching him in the face, like, you need to stop this madness. Punch, 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 So, I mean, it works for Batman, I guess. Gotham is like, what are you going to do with that rope, Batman? You're going to tie me up with it? And Bruce is like, no, I'm going to crash a plane into you. So he back grapples out of the way, and then the Batplane crashes into Gotham. Off somewhere, enjoying a nice day. Lucius Fox is already tallying the damage of the Batmobiles that have blown up and calling in, more. And then he sees the little Batwing thing disappear, and he starts tearing apart his desk like, Batman did what? Now he has to order a Batwing. I'm kidding, it never happened, but you can just imagine what Lucius would be going through if he showed up in this comic. Alfred then contacts the Cape Crusader and says, I'm back in the Batcave, Master Bruce. What do you want me to do now? And Batman replies with, you need to make the call. And Alfred's like, are you sure, Master Wayne? This is Gotham, You want me to use the red phone. Yes, Alfred, use the red phone. Make the call already. And then before Gotham can vaporize Batman with his, fake heat vision or whatever, Superman punches him in the face and Clark says, hi, Gotham, I'm Superman, and this is the Justice League. We are Batman's friends. Stand down, it's over. I have that Lego Superman in my head, the over-the-top, make fun of Batman for not having superpowers type thing. So Hank is really not fazed by being punched by Superman, nor does he really care. He's like, I'm not afraid of the big blue Boy Scout. I was a Batman fanboy. Batman could beat Superman any day of the week. And so he just punches Superman and sends him flying halfway across the city. And Duke is like, dang! And then Bruce is like, how are we supposed to beat him? He's just too strong. And then they ask Claire, how they beat the brother because they're totally running out of options. Gotham Girl then tells the story of how they got their powers and basically says that they can use as much power as they want, and the only consequence for that is it drains their life force. But it makes them pretty much nigh invulnerable. The strongest beings on Earth, actually, which you're just like, whoa, what is the Justice League going to do? So also their powers get stronger based on who they fight. So bringing in the Justice League wasn't Batman's smartest idea. She and her bro can basically live a really long time, longer than normal humans if they don't use their powers. Or they can use some of their life force by becoming supermen. And if the need be or the threat is big enough, they can pretty much use all their powers by becoming like an unbeatable godlike being. Which means, well, the Justice League is KO'd. Batman then convinces Hank that, he is Gotham, in flesh and blood, and tricks the kid into trying to get him to kill Bruce in order to protect the people of the city, which is, kind of a genius plan. Hank agrees, saying, goodbye, Batman, I mean Gotham, wink. Then, of course, the other Wonder Twin shows up and starts beating up on her brother. It's a very short fight, actually, because Hank just drops dead. And she's like, I didn't mean to hit him that hard, I was just trying to protect everybody. And Batman's like, I know, and it's okay that you killed your brother to save me, because killing is subjective. And it's just kind of like, oh, so sometimes DC Rebirth incorporates a lot of New 52 logic plus DC cinematic logic, I guess. So this incident also causes Claire to go more crazy, but I'll talk about that in a second. This I Am Gotham storyline also continues into a series that I'm currently reading called Night of the Monster Men, which is actually a Nightwing crossover as well as Detective Comics. The ending dialogue for this issue has Gotham Girl painting a very bleak future for the Dark Knight. After she and Duke get married and Bruce dies, which they don't say how other than she may or may not have killed him, she always comes back to this spot in the center of Gotham to pay, respects to her brother, who she killed. She also recalls how this was the origin of Gotham Girl and the death of Batman. The story kind of continues in the next issue, but it's more or less about how Gotham Girl shaves all her hair off. She had long hair, she shaves it all off, becomes bald. She talks to her brother out loud, who's deceased, makes Duke worry about her sanity, Alfred and Batman, who Batman just kind of follows her around and shadows her while she's taking on, like, lesser-known villains like Flamingo, Kite Man, and some pirate villain. He's a Bronze Age, Silver Age villain. I don't really remember who he is. And, you know, everybody's worried about her using her superpowers because, like she said, using the superpowers actually kills you. So eventually, she's just going to drop dead too, like her brother. Anyway, Gotham Girl then takes out all of these different problems in the city and talks to herself. She makes the police worry about her. She makes the people that she saves think she's kind of like off her rocker. And, you know, it's kind of sad in a way because when she's talking, her face is always like covered in tears. And she's not even aware of it. She's that psychologically disturbed by this point. And she keeps talking to her brother. When she meets Batman, she even forgets that she met him, like, during the course of the story. And she's, like, fangirling, talking like, oh my gosh, Hank, it's Batman. Batman's right here. Oh my gosh, Hank, it's Batman. It's Batman. It's Batman. So, you know, at the end of the story, he unmasks in front of her, shows that he's Bruce Wayne. He's a real person. It's not just a mask. And he does this in the middle of the city, too, where people probably could see him, but he doesn't care. He's like, you know what? She needs this right now because Bruce Wayne's chiseled, handsome looks makes everything better. So that's maybe why he did it. He then tells Claire it's going to be okay. You know, he talks about some really disturbing story, how he held the hand of his dying mother and talked to her when she was dead until the police came. So, I mean, I've never remembered that aspect of Batman's origins, so that's something new that maybe Tom felt needed more weight to the tragedy and Bruce being crazy. You know, maybe he took a page out of the Gotham book. I don't know. But that's now canon, so, you know. So he coddles her and tries to tell her everything's going to be okay. And Gotham Girl actually becomes kind of like a standby member of the Bat family, but she has superpowers, but they don't want her to use her superpowers because it will slowly kill her. So, yeah. I really would like to know what Damian thinks about Gotham Girl, but so far there hasn't been any interaction with him at all, so. At the very end of the story, Batman then pays Amanda Waller a visit and plans on going after the supplier of a new drug that he believes caused Hank to go insane and increase Psycho Pirate's powers thanks to Bane. Amanda says, I can get you in, puts on sunglasses and says, but it'll be suicide. Yeah! Yeah, okay, that didn't work, but you know how that goes, right? And with that, anyway, we're done. I encourage all of you to read and enjoy I Am Gotham miniseries by Tom King for yourselves. It's a great story. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I really don't think I did it that justice in this. I also don't have that many comics to show you because we have a new editing software that doesn't work the best. Thank you, Windows 10. Personally, I think King has really transitioned pretty well from the Grayson books into the Bat stories. It still has that same narrative. It still has this very rich storytelling. And his writing style just seems to breathe new life into the older Bat characters while skillfully introducing new ones into this universe. It's like watching a master surgeon at work. Like, these characters weren't a part of the Bat universe before, but they are now. And they don't just feel like shoehorned in. It feels like they could always operate inside Batman's world, and that is the difference between a good writer and a great one. I Am Gotham just also had enough humor to work for the story, but it didn't take away from the action of the pages or the overall plot. Again, everything was just so well done, and it also laid the future groundwork for different arcs like Night of the Monster Men, which is a collab between Detective Comics, Nightwing, and the Batman books, and then Tom King's next arc called I Am Suicide, which starts, I believe, at the end of October or early November. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, we are totally done now. Make sure you bat punch that like button, and I hope you ladies and gents learned something from this lore. Have a great rest of your night, and until we meet again, God bless, and happy gaming, Gothamites. Peace!